Well, good evening, race fans, and welcome to the PSGL's GT Tier 1 Group 3 race. Tonight we're on round 4 of this inaugural season, and we are at the Cathedral of Speed, the circuit of Monza in Italy, and underway with qualifying right now. This is Webbo speaking, the change of voice that you're probably used to. So with our thanks to Evan for completing the first half of the season, it's the turn of me to take you through the remainder of this season now. And we join Bransky on track at the moment, driving the Subaru, and just trying to run his session properly. Now he's heading into Ascari at the moment. We join him on board, just try and get every inch of this particular attempt. And welcome if you're joining us. I'll take you through the championship standings as they appear in just a moment. Let's see this lap finish with Bransky. I just saw we had H Racing Green HRG into the pits just to change tyres. Currently the fastest time is with Iqbal right now. This is Bransky's out lap, and now we get underway with his time lap. Distinct has the lead of the championship. He's got won the last 2 rounds with the fastest lap in round 2, as Bransky heads down towards the Rettifilio chicane, looking for a good way through here, although touching both of those orange sausage curbs, upsetting the balance of the car slightly. HRG, H Racing Green, for the Invicta Racing team is on just 32 points, one shy of Distinct, with 2 second places in the first 2 races, but he's I don't think he's going to be here tonight. No, he is here tonight, sorry, it's Distinct that's not going to make it here tonight. Then comes Hasnan, Bransky, Petty, Fred, YRS, Jamie, Bonnie and Oscar. Your standings as it stands at the moment. I'll take you through the team standings momentarily as we exit the Lesmos with Bransky right now on track. Heading back towards Ascari now, under the bridge, of course, using the inside edge of those curves. These ones are a little bit more tricky, and he's picked up a penalty which will dock the car in terms of race speed shortly. So heading now down to Parabolica. And it's the Slag Brothers team of Bransky and Petty who are on top at the moment, having won 2 rounds on 46 points. Then comes Invicta with H Racing Green and YRS, who are on 40 points with 2 third places and a second. Then Distinct on his own in the Distinct team on 33, of course. Then comes the Asahai Kese team of Hasnain, and then Sunset Outrun of Fred Dude, CRG of Jamie, Rio Watanabe of Iqbal and Geordie are in 7th place with Executive Project, ABT and BMW Walkenhorst in that order. Everyone has scored points though so far. So with Bransky with another penalty on the board, let's join another driver. Let's go and see how Distinct is getting on. So purple middle sector for Distinct, purple first sector for Distinct, as he's into the Della Roggia chicane right now. Just following the beautifully liveried Corvette in front. If you are joining us today, do shout up and say who you're here supporting. Distinct has got the fastest time at the moment, and he's going even faster, a half-second improvement as he gets the car into Ascari. Looking a little bit loose, but still pretty fast. He's able to get a toe off the car in front, albeit very small, but full throttle until picking the braking point for the Parabolica. Iqbal goes fastest temporarily, but it was quickly shifted back to Distinct. I guess Iqbal's time was deleted So Distinct trying to lower the bar. He's currently got a 4/10 gap. It's now over a second at the front of the field. And we'll just join Jamie, because H Racing Green has managed to get up into second place, which is demoted Jamie here. And these cars running a little bit too close for comfort, I fancy, in the tight and twisty stuff. And then you've got, I think that was Fred Dude, was it, on track just behind, as Jamie sneaks up the inside of the car in front. That was one of the Slag Brothers team. Oh, a lot of counter steer, although possibly as a trace of the old lag there on the car for Jamie. Massive understeer through Lesmo 1. See if he can get a better line through Lesmo 2. Very limited qualifying, because we've only got a few minutes to go on qualifying, but we have a 60-minute race in prospect. So around this track, of course, plenty of time to recover a race, plenty of time to get used to all of your slipstream requirements, get your setup together. The tyres under allocation today are the mediums and the hards. So no use of the soft tyre is permitted. We'll keep an eye out. I'm sure no one will do that unless by accident, as Jamie heads back down the back straight and towards Parabolica. Once again, see the downshifts, working the wheel, playing with the throttle just to balance the car mid-corner, running super wide on the exit and pointing the car directly at the shortest gap to the start-finish line. Jamie goes up to fourth on a 1:47.218, but in front it's Iqbal at the moment in third, Racing Green in second, and Distinct still has the lead of this qualifying. This is an outlap for Iqbal, so we'll go to a driver who's just completing a lap. Well, that looked like an outlap for H Racing Green, or a charge lap, or a lap just to get some gap on the field, which is exactly what we see Distinct up to as well at the moment. So he's on a slow lap. H Racing Green appears to be on a lap, but that looks to be our qualifying session done with. That is our starting grid. It's Distinct, Racing Green and Iqbal in that order at the start. Distinct with the purple and blue, H Racing Green in the Mercedes, and it's dropped the clutch, and away we go then at the start of this race with a good start, a great start from H Racing Green on the inside. Distinct somewhat on the back foot, with Jamie coming up the inside as well. Jamie looks to be securely in second place, but Distinct will try and run around the outside. A massive outbraking situation for the leader of the race, H Racing Green, who was forced to go completely across the Retafilio chicane, and that leaves Jamie in the front with YRS in second place. The front runners, Distinct, Iqbal and Racing Green, dropping back down the order. So it's Jamie, it's YRS in the sister Mercedes, then comes Toby, and then Distinct back down in fourth place with Iqbal in fifth. But YRS trying to find his way through the track nicely now and looking for a good exit and entry into the next Lesmo right-hander. It's Jamie on top by 7/10 of a second. YRS 5/10 of a second ahead of Toby. Further back, we've got a little bit of a battle going on here. Iqbal and H Racing Green trying to recover ground, but they'll be cognizant of the fact that they can't win the race in this lap, but they can certainly lose it as the slipstreaming continues down towards the Ascari chicane. Looks like you've got Iqbal defending from H Racing Green, a little bit of a nudge, and Iqbal spins slightly at about a 90-degree spin across into the gravel, rescued it, but is dropping down the order once again, and a little bit of muscling out going on there as now Fred Dude comes down the outside of Iqbal with better momentum on the exit. In Fred Dude in the Mazda, and Brownski slipstreaming all the way through towards the Parabolica. Iqbal just trying to stem the losses, and round the outside goes Brownski, and it's up another place. Iqbal down to 9th, and up at the front we've got Distinct has got Toby, but Toby is back on the offensive here, trying to get the place back, getting certainly under the slipstream angle. We've got hard tyres on Toby's car. We've got Distinct looking at the inside of YRS, but no way through for him. So you've got YRS just defending neat and tidily from Distinct. who is certainly ruling the roost in the championship at the moment, but not having it all his own way in this early phase of the race. This is lap 2. Jamie leads from YRS and Distinct. Then comes Toby, H Racing Green, and Philip, with Hasnain and Iqbal 7th and 8th positions. So through Ascari we go once again, and Toby getting it all crossed up on the way through. H Racing Green much smoother and able to get through that way. Excuse me, that was the Roger chicane, because they're heading into the Lesmos now. So H Racing Green managing to recover back to 4th, but still with plenty of the race left to run. We're only 3 minutes deep. Hard tyres appear to be the way of the world for the majority of the field here so far. You can see H Racing Green on the hards, and everyone in front of him also on the hard tyres. Jamie leading nicely, but YRS is not really able to catch him. In fact, he's looking in his mirrors, because Distinct has a good run out of Ascari, looking all over the barriers, all over the curbs, and looking at the back end of that Mercedes. Hungrily comes Distinct next. To Parabolica they go then once again. You can see the marbles on the exit of the corner. Very wise to stay off those, as now Jamie feeling the need to defend to the inside, try and break the toe. Absolutely gorgeous livery on Jamie's car. Was that the shape of a small penalty behind Toby on Philip's car? Possibly. There was certainly a little bit of red over the driver name. And Distinct is right on the tail here for 2nd place. The drivers need to give each other plenty of racing room, don't they, because of the lag factor. Distinct down the inside then, got a good run through Curva Grande and into the Della Roggia chicane. Got the inside line, much more comfortable, gets a nice hop over the barriers that time round, and into 2nd place with just Jamie in front of him, already starting to gap YRS. All the drivers very close to one another in this Tier 1 race. No one suffering in a huge way. Of course, the slipstream factor is definitely a big issue for the drivers. Toby has got Philip coming down the inside on the way into Ascari. That is a penalty on the car for Philip, but it's only half a second, so he could probably afford to blend that. No, it's going to be slowing him down in the next route through. There he is, slowing down. The hazard lights flashing, and Toby straight back past Philip, making the best run through there that he could, but it's not enough to hold on to the place. Toby getting 5th place back from him, and no, it's hard to know where to look because the cars are so close to one another up and down the grid. A bit further back then on this lap 5 it goes Distinct, who's taken the lead. Distinct has snuck ahead of Jamie on the way through the Parabolica and down the main straight. Distinct back on top, where he is very accustomed to being through this championship so far. As I say, leading the championship, having won the previous 2 races, but right now his Supra performing beautifully, and of course with a relatively full tank of fuel on the car. He did underfuel slightly relative to the driver behind him, but he's certainly, there's not a huge amount of difference there, just a few kilos in difference. Welcome if you're just joining us. We are just 4 laps deep into this 31 lap race. Distinct is on top from Jamie and YRS, H Racing Green and Toby, then Philip, Fred and his Hasnain, the top 8. Distinct has the current fastest lap on the hard tyres, but I'm sure it will be dropped a lot lower than that during the course of the next hours racing. Slightly slower time that time from Distinct, and Jamie holding that middle ground, but unable really to get a good run here on the Supra in front. The AMG pairing now of YRS and H Racing Green starting to work together and bring themselves back into the battle for this podium, with Jamie in 2nd, then at YRS and H Racing Green. Don't know if they're quite close enough to make a move on this lap. Distinct is starting to stretch away at the front here. This is a little bit like a mini endurance event. It's such a long race for the drivers to focus and plot their strategy, so they won't be driving at 10 tenths at this stage. A little bit of action going on here between the BMW of Toby with the Subaru WRX behind him of Philip. Philip's already got past the one time. Looks to have a little bit more speed on the car, but he did have to pay a penalty on the previous lap. So will it be the same? Is he slightly more ragged here than Toby? Through the Rogier chicane they go, needing to avoid those gravel traps on the outside. Just keep that margin on the inside of the exit curbs. Again, another beautiful looking car, this Turner sponsored BMW. Let me know who you're here supporting if you're watching along. Always good to see. Up at the front, it looks like H Racing Green right with his teammate with a personal best sector from H Racing Green in the VR46 sponsored Mercedes AMG. No way through just yet, but you feel like it's a matter of time between YRS, who's got an under 3 tenths of a second gap here now to the Chevrolet in front of Jamie. Let me know if you think this is the kind of pace you were expecting to see out of these cars. Balance of power is on, of course, but there is definite differences between the cars, despite that balance of power adjustment. Here comes the AMG then. This is the closest he's been so far. Goes down the inside line here. Jamie giving that inside line up. Will he try and run side by side? It looks like the AMG just nosing ahead enough to claim the corner, and that is a claim for position from YRS and a start of a climb back towards what he hopes to be the tail of Distinct. H Racing Green has seen where Jamie is vulnerable to the power of the Mercedes, so he just needs to do something similar next time round. Looks like Iqbal has suffered a little bit of screen freeze. Hopefully he'll be able to rejoin us. Been a lot of action at the front here, so I've not had a chance to take you through the order further back in the pack, but for the time being it's certainly Distinct, YRS and Jamie, but I think H Racing Green will have something to say very soon. At the back of the Corvette, full throttle down towards Ascari. H Racing Green not making a move yet, just keeping Jamie guessing, staying online, trying to concentrate on his exit here. That was a little bit too much curb on the left hand side of the car, but he's got a good run, as has Jamie though, so the advantage here a little bit cut for the slipstream, because I think Jamie has got that slipstream back too as the car's pitched forward under the brakes into Parabolica, and a tighter line from H Racing Green now. Runs a little bit wider, so Jamie running almost a high line through that corner, but it's still 4 tenths of a second between H Racing Green and Jamie. It's dropping, but I don't know if it's dropping by enough. So that's the top 4 for you. Further back we've got Toby, who has started to gap Philip a little bit. Philip in the WRX. Then comes Fred in the Mazda. And then we've got a battle going on here for 8th place. That looks to be Hasnain getting past Bransky, or at least resisting Bransky in the Asahi Kese purple and white Lexus RC. So down in 10th place currently is Petty in the sister Slag Brothers Subaru BRZ, and then we've got Geordie in 11th place as well. So up at the front, it's Distinct still in the lead by 2.8 seconds, though I think that gap is starting to drop slightly. YRS, his gap is just over 6 tenths of a second, but it drops as they start to get under those big fat rear wings on the Group 3 cars. And H Racing Green continuing to chase down Jamie. They scream down the through the Curva del Serralio and into the Ascari corner. H Racing Green has had some good exits from here. Jamie looking a little bit less under control, less reliably under control. I think he's going to be vulnerable, but Jamie's currently resisting the second of the Mercedes. But it was YRS who managed to get past quite quickly. This battle for second, third and fourth continues deep into lap 8 now. Those hard tyres lasting very well indeed, but they can't wait to get themselves on the medium tyres, and they need to get to, I would imagine, about 2/3 distance. Then they can take minimum of fuel up board. That was a bit of a moment for YRS coming out of the Rettifilio, unless there was a little bit of lag on the car. But the gap did come down significantly. Jamie now looking at the back of YRS as well as staring in his mirrors. Corvette performing well relative to these Mercedes. Always a difficult one, knowing just how much apex curb to take. H Racing Green 0.3 of a second now. This is as close as he's been for a number of laps. If he can get a good exit out of Ascari, he'll be well on course here. Certainly catches in the middle sector of Ascari. That looks very good from H Racing Green. He's actually almost alongside. He needs a favour from his teammate here to help with the tow. His teammate could be looking in his mirrors, as now H Racing Green stuck on the outside as they go towards Parabolica, but it looks like Jamie just yielded slightly on the way into Parabolica, favouring trying to get a tow on the back of this second Mercedes, but I don't think it's quite worked out. Just didn't quite time it right and couldn't stay underneath. So H Racing Green up to third, and it's a 2-3 for the Invicta team of YRS and H Racing Green in the Mercedes AMGs, as we start lap 9 with the leader. Although they're not able to make a huge difference in Distinct's lead. In fact, that's now out to 4.4 seconds. So will there be any form of teamwork going on? I don't know if they're in a party together, but if they are, then there'll certainly be some communication around how they best manage the strategy. YRS has got slightly less fuel, so might be under-fueled for 1 lap fewer than H Racing Green here. Again, that could be a deliberate decision by the two of them, as Toby gets Larry in the background in the yellow BMW. Tremendously metronomic racing. Such great focus from these guys. 1 minute 48, 1 minute 49. The times are hovering. Well, I mean, that looks tremendous from H Racing Green. The reliability of his lap times, just 1 lap outside of the 1:48s. Very, very impressive so far. Likewise, YRS almost identical with just that 1 slower lap. And now YRS looking in his mirrors, just trying to balance, pushing and not leaving himself vulnerable to Jamie behind. I'm sure their eyes at the moment are on the best team result possible. That was a little bit wide from YRS. Will that just kill his momentum? Just that tiny amount necessary for H Racing Green to get a sniff of a look into Rettifilio? I think it will, as these under 0.2 of a second make that 1.5, and down the inside goes H Racing Green, with YRS not fighting it too hard. So a little bit of cooperation there, but really that was H Racing Green with his superior exit from Parabolica. And now it's time for YRS to start defending and making sure that Jamie doesn't get a look. About 5.7 seconds the gap between first and second. Now it's opened up by a further second since we last checked in. The fuel starting to burn off. The tyres not in terrible condition, and again YRS struggling on the exit, so he really needs to just get back into a better rhythm. Now he, of course, his sight lines into the corners is slightly disrupted. He hasn't been following another car for a number of laps here, so he's just got to adjust his reference points and make sure that he can plot his way through the corners with no surprises. So further back in the order then, unless we just stay with Jamie, who might be close enough to make a move. He is around 3/10, but that looked like a rough start to Ascari. Will it be a better exit? Is it slow in, fast out for Jamie? Not quite. It's 0.4 of a second down the back straight, heading towards Parabolica, and actually that gap is extending rather than dropping. I think YRS is picking up a good tow from his teammate at this stage. Toby is on his own in 5th place right now. Of course, this race could absolutely turn on its head when it comes to the different strategies when the drivers decide to pit, how they perform under the medium tyres, so well worth sticking with us. Jamie is gaining not enough, well, I was going to say not enough, but he is gaining some, just not quite into the braking zone, into Rettifilio. An extra half a straight, and I think he would have been there. Philip on his own as well in P6. Fred is in P7, again, in the Mazda RX. Very distinctive sound on the Mazda, very high revving. Then comes Bransky in 8th, but we've got a nice tight battle going on still here between Hasnain and Petty. Hasnain for 9th, Petty in 10th place at the moment, chasing him like mad. He's got the headlights ablaze, so trying his best to distract Hasnain, but he's been in front for some time now. Just notice Hasnain's rear number plate has got Vets for Pets on it, which is I don't think I've seen them that company sponsor anybody on a racing circuit before, so I like to see these new ones to everybody. In 11th place is Geordie, who is pretty much on his own here in the Toyota. Distinct is still on top by 6 seconds now from H Racing Green, who is gapping his teammate, and now in the Aperture Laboratories Portal 2 reminiscent livery of Jamie in the CRG team. He's going around the outside into Parabolica, but YRS tries to fight it. There was a little bit of contact made there. Looks like Jamie hanging it out round the outside, and he might be able to stay ahead, because it looks to me as if YRS can't get the tow. Yeah, he slipped back underneath the car to try and continue the tow right behind Jamie to be in the braking zone for the Rettifilio. He's going to brake long, he's going to brake late. Is it too late? He can gather the car, but Jamie will be quick on the way out if he's timed this correctly. But a good reclaim of a place by YRS there, cleanly into Rettifilio and managing to make that one work. So a really hard fought and cleanly fought battle continues for this 3rd place into lap 12 of 31. Hard tyres, you can just about see a little bit of red on the hard tyre wear. Still will go for days and days, but under a quarter of a tank now for YRS. He's going to have a fairly lengthy stint on that medium tyre. YRS just opening the gap slightly. I think Toby is starting to come into this one, and he's managed to regain. He's dropped Philip, who he was battling with for a number of laps, and now with the action going on ahead between YRS and Jamie, Toby has been catching hand over fist here and is looking to try and get in the mix with this battle, which is exactly what we want to see. H Racing Green has completely ditched his teammate, and he's heading off to try and pin back Distinct's progress through the field. Nice bit of slipstreaming once again on the cars. In fact, I can see just further back, you've got Philip and Fred Dude are quite close together. So Fred has put in some nice consistent laps from lap 9 to 12, it's been a lot more steady. Certainly the start of the laps 7 and 8 were a little bit on the ropey side, but he's regathered himself and is hungrily looking at the back of that WRX for another move. Bransky is in 8th place, I say, completely on his own here, with Petty in 10th and Hasnain still in... Sorry, Hasnain in 10th, Petty's in 9th, and we unfortunately seem to have lost Geordie. He left the session a few moments ago, so I don't think we'll be able to get him back. This is H Racing Green then. Stopping the ascendancy of Distinct, unless Distinct is just managing that gap, but we'll go back to this battle for 3rd place between YRS, Jamie and Toby once again. This is lap 13 of 31. Waiting for the first pit stops, of course. Control of these cars, incredibly highly skilled, and I do think that later into the race the fatigue factor is going to take effect. The driver's likely to be making more mistakes. Corvette looking a little bit drifty as it went into the corner that time, a bit of oversteer, but currently very even wear on the tyres. Into the pits comes the BMW of Toby, and Distinct are in the pits as well. So Distinct on the hard tyres currently. Is this a change for the mediums? There's certainly a bit of fuel going in the car. Well, a lot of fuel going in the car. Is that a second set of softs, second set of hards going on the car as well? It is for Toby, and then loads of fuel as well going into the car. So Toby, how much fuel is he putting in? Let's find out. Well, over 3/4 of a tank, 81% of fuel gone into the car. Distinct rejoins the race, but way down at the rear of the field, only in front of Toby, who's also just coming out of the pits, and he's put on almost identical amount of fuel back in the car on still on the hard tyres. So it looks to be a 2-stop strategy for these guys today. So H Racing Green in front of his teammate now by 2.8 seconds. Does he decide here to respond to Distinct's pit stop? The battle that was for 3rd place between YRS and Jamie is now for 2nd, and is now down to 2 drivers. But as I said, it looks like YRS is running hot lap here, certainly personal best middle sector. I'll wait to see if H Racing Green gets on through. Saeed is, I think, supporting YRS, certainly flying the Emirati flag with him, I think. Confirm for me, Saeed. Into the pits then comes your current leader, H Racing Green. YRS in the pits as well, running on fumes at the moment, and then Jamie carries on through. So this is going to be really interesting. How far into the outlap, how much of a success was the outlap of Distinct? Fred Dude's come in the pits as well. So Distinct has stayed ahead of Toby, of course. Philip's gone onto medium tyres on lap 14. That's a slight change of tactic. H Racing Green's gone onto a 2nd set of hards, I think, and comes out with a 54% fuel. So possibly a short fueling medium run was that. Let's confirm that in a moment. There goes Distinct, staying in front of H Racing Green, who is now on the mediums on a light fuel run. So a short sprint stint here, and look what kind of a gap he managed to drop. The difference is now half a second between himself and Distinct. Obviously managed to run a good in-lap, and Distinct was a little bit compromised on his outlap. That 7-second gap has dropped down now to half a second between H Racing Green and Distinct. Did Distinct have a problem in that previous lap? It was a pretty slow lap. It was 6 seconds on his in-lap, 6 seconds longer on his in-lap than H Racing Green's. That's where it all went wrong. So H Racing Green obviously found a good route through, and he's now right on the heels on better tyres and on lighter fuel than Distinct, so will take the battle to him, but needs to get this job done as quickly as possible. This is the battle for the net lead, of course. I don't know how long Jamie Bransky and Petty are running into this race, and Hasnain for that matter. But look at the grip on the way out of Ascari that H Racing Green can enjoy. He's almost alongside down the back straight towards Parabolica. Distinct will defend successfully. It looked like an early braking event there for H Racing Green, who's looking for a good fast exit and exploiting the toe to the highest possible degree. Tuck right up behind him. He's going to be starting to push the car. Bump and run potentially from H Racing Green. He'll know he's got better tyres under braking. Does he go for it down the inside? He's going to try, but no, he's not brave enough on the brakes. Distinct taking a very long way around the Retifilia right-hander section and holding off H Racing Green this time out at least. H Racing Green looking for a good exit though, and he draws alongside around Curva Grande. He'll have additional grip here, but Distinct just hanging on to this position. H Racing Green trying to time his move to perfection. He's moved to the inside. He's braking late. He's over the curb. Is that a problem? That's a bit of contact between Distinct and H Racing Green, but H Racing Green was off the circuit turning left. So that has killed all the gap that he managed to catch back, and I wonder what's going on inside the cockpit of H Racing Green, because YRS comes right up behind him now. YRS, who also went on the mediums and is also on a short fuel stint. H Racing Green will not be pleased to see what just went down. There's a little bit of paintwork damage on the rear left wing of YRS's car. I just noticed, if you look carefully when they're going a little bit slower through the Lesmos particularly, you can see it. And now that gap for H Racing Green back to 7 seconds, and he's going to be fuming after being shoved at first view, shoved off the circuit by Distinct. But let me know if you've got the luxury of rewinding the stream. Let me know what your view on that one was. Was Distinct fair to take the line as H Racing Green was off the circuit temporarily through the apex, or should he have left more racing room? Big question. That could be a big factor later on. Into the pits comes Bransky on the hard tyres, and Jamie has managed to undercut. It looks to be undercut H Racing Green. He's right alongside, but all just having to brake earlier on the cold tyres. Jamie back on mediums, the same strategy. He went longer by 2 laps than these guys on that, well, 2 and 3 laps by over these guys on, so lap 17. But again, won't be running, I don't think, a full stint here. I think he's going to have another stint on the mediums at the end of the race at least. See what kind of lap life the drivers get out of the mediums. But he's certainly managed to undercut YRS, so that one's worked to a certain degree for Jamie. H Racing Green now trying to drop that gap again. It's 6.4 seconds, so he's gained about half a second on Distinct through the most recent lap. Petty still hasn't pitted, neither has Hasnain, but Distinct is in 3rd place, having been the first of the pitters. Now Jamie has got mirrors full of Mercedes once again. Looks like YRS shaping for a move potentially, and into the pits finally comes Petty off the hards. He's got 3% fuel left on the car. We did see a driver coming in with 1%, and the drivers get past. That was a blue flag, but I think might have been a slightly erroneous blue flag for the driver in the pits at the time. There's Petty dropping down. He's in 8th place at the moment. Looks like he'll probably get out of the pits in 8th place, but he's got a lot of fuel to get on that car. Sun is setting in Monza. You can see the colour of the sky looking very much like a sunset skyline. Bransky actually gets past Petty. That's a +2 second penalty currently on YRS's car. So that battle is going to be fizzled out to nothing. H Racing Green currently with the fastest lap of 1:47.0. He's enjoying the lower fueled medium tyre run at the moment. Distinct went onto a second set of hards, but he's really burning through these hards. He was the first one to pit. He's on a similar fuel load here, just fueling for what he needs to get this stint done with. He will have to pit again for the mediums, of course. I fully expect everybody else to be pitting a second time. Maybe not Hasnain, who is really running this one very long indeed. He's been managing his pace. His fuel is flashing currently. Must mean he's due a pit stop in the next lap or two, but he stays out in that Lexus. Hard tyres, barely use those hard tyres. Really good run, and that should mean, I think, he can squeeze out a one-stopper through here. Lots of tyre squealing going on for Distinct, who is now within sight of a toe on the back of Hasnain. Yet to pit, of course, but almost certain to pit in the next lap. We've got H Racing Green in third, Jamie in fourth, a way back now for YRS in fifth. Then we've got Fred somewhat on his own, having got ahead of Toby. Bransky in eighth, Philip in ninth, and Petty currently the rearmost runner in 10th place, but on for points tonight. If he can get this home, and he's on the medium tyres. He's fueled to the end of the race, so he's looking for a 12-lap run, I think. Oh, was that a problem there for Hasnain coming through the Lesmos? Oh, and that was that? No, that was just a little bit of lag. It looked terrible from Hasnain, but he suddenly teleported back, so we're okay. We're okay for the leader. That has got to be super distracting for Distinct to see that going on, who himself hasn't got the best of connections. There's some evidence that he's been trading paint either with a barrier or with another driver. Well, certainly when he and H Racing Green came to contact, it was that side of the car. You can see the scratches on the left front wing wheel arch. And now he takes the long way round, parabolica. The Lexus comes in of Hasnain for his first and probably only pit stop. And Distinct retakes the lead on lap 20 with less than half a tank of fuel left in the car. Second set of hard tyres is that going on to Hasnain? Let's watch that carefully, because he's got to run both compounds on, and the same compound on each axle within the race. Jamie staying with H Racing Green here in the podium positions. Personal best sector for Jamie, who's starting to get in the sweet spot with those medium tyres. H Racing Green has dropped the gap to Distinct, but I feel like it's not enough to get back on terms. And remember, Distinct will have the nice run at the end of the race on the medium tyre. H Racing Green, he's trying to go hard, medium, medium, I think, whereas Distinct is going hard, hard, medium. Some super quick laps has H Racing Green, but just lacking something of the consistency and possibly sharpness of elbows of Distinct. Do make sure you've subscribed to the PSGL channel while we're here, and you've liked the video today. I see several of you have already, which is very cool. Very grateful for you for that. And if you do want to follow us on Twitter, that's PremierSimGL, and at WeboRed5 for myself, where you can see the other times that I'm going live. Here comes Jamie then behind H Racing Green. Still a tight battle going on here. Let's go and have a look further back and see. Fred Dude and Toby currently 2.2 seconds apart for 5th and 6th. And then very close indeed is Petty, Philip and Hasnain. Petty in 8th, Philip 9th and Hasnain in 10th place after the pit stop. There is Hasnain, confirmation that he put the medium tyre on. Should be nice and quick now. He's shaping up the Subaru WRX in the black Playboy livery. Hard on the brakes, down to the inside of the Rettifilio, and a very nice move from the medium shod Hasnain. A little bit of an unfair advantage almost on a tyre difference there. Philip having to run the hards right now. 10 laps to go then, folks. That is a personal best for the Lexus, who's been running in the wheel tracks and managed to make an overtaking move. You don't often get your personal bests making the overtakes because you are compromised on your line, but of course he got a little bit of a toe as well, so understandable. Up to 9th place then for Hasnain. Remember, he doesn't need to pit again, but many of the drivers in front of him will be pitting for a second time. So this race could still come back to him. Pit stops do take a long time for the refueling. So if you can do it in just one stop, obviously you're going to be at a good advantage. He's running some quick times right now. Here's Hasnain down there. Oh, H Racing Green and Jamie are swapping places. There goes a move down into the Rettifilio chicane. So Jamie finally getting ahead now of H Racing Green, up to 2nd place. As H Racing Green's tyres looking a little bit worse for wear, and he's running low on fuel. So Jamie did stop a little bit later. H Racing Green well past his best on the tyres, and you can see that in the lap time, slipping down to a 48.9 was H Racing Green on the previous lap. So needing to pit for fuel for a 9-lap run, 9 or 8-lap run to the end. Again on the medium tyres, these softs are prohibited. Very, very hard fought battles through the race so far. But H Racing Green definitely slipping behind. Jamie now falling back. Does he take this as the indicator he needs to pit, or does he need an extra lap on the mediums? Running wide on the way out of Parabolica, but no, into the pits he comes. So looking to try and make the undercut work. He came into the pits 0.8 of a second away from Jamie, who has got a 5-second gap to Distinct in front. YRS pits at the same time as his teammate. Thankfully they don't appear to be sharing a pit box. There is Distinct, and there is the fuel going in for the end of the race. So a hard medium stint strategy setup. Here comes Toby catching Fred. Just 0.6 of a second, and there's a closer battle going on. Well, there was a closer battle going on back there, as now we've got one of the cars in the pits, but currently Petty is catching Brownski here, and they're going to have the complication of H Racing Green coming out of the pits in front of them. How is that going to work out? The Lexus just getting ahead, and remember, these are both pitted to the end, so that is a net change of position over the strategy difference, a 1-stop to a 2-stop. Petty overtaking H Racing Green here. He's should have a similar amount of fuel on the car. Excuse me, Hasnain getting H Racing Green as well. There should be a similar amount of fuel on the car, just enough to get them to the end, of course, but slightly more worn mediums. Hasnain showed that he can make the tyres last. Stop last of everybody off the hards, so this is a straight fight for position to the end of the race. Hasnain versus H Racing Green. and it looks like Bransky also with tyres and fuel to finish this race out. Up at the front, in comes Distinct this time from the front of the race. Will Jamie continue on by? Yes, he does once again, as he did before. So does this bring Distinct back into the clutches of Petty, H Racing Green and Hasnain? H Racing Green is now past Hasnain as Fred Dude and Toby both pit at the same point as well. This is absolutely the time then. It's going to be a 7 or 8 lap run to the end. And we've got the two Slag Brothers Racing Subarus in, what are they? Second and third as they cross the line and pass the pitted drivers. Petty ahead. That was H Racing Green who managed to get the overtake done on Hasnain very quickly indeed. But should be in a position now where the whole field is pitted to the end. And we've got some tight racing weather. Just Jamie still to pit. He's got a good gap on the front drivers. Here is Bransky, and Distinct came out behind Bransky. 2 seconds the gap between Bransky and Distinct has got a 2.7 second gap to Petty behind. Very much back in the clutches of these drivers now for the sprint to the end on the medium tyres and lower fuel. Petty is going to have to start looking behind him because H Racing Green is catching. Counter steering on the way out of Lesmo 2. Well, the screen display is currently telling me that H Racing Green was at a pit and a penalty lap 16 and 18. Is that what we're seeing the same icon for? I don't think he went into the pits on both laps. The times just don't seem to add up that way. Maybe that was a penalty because the 2:27 lap on lap 22 was his last pit stop. That is Jamie in the pits, I believe. Was it? No. He just on the tower on the left temporarily was seen in the middle of this group. But H Racing Green 3/10 of a second behind the Subaru now. HRG getting closer and closer now, within a quarter of a second, under 2/10 of a second. Curva Grande does seem to be his way as Petty defends to the inside into the Roggia chicane. There's no way through if you're on the outside there. Oh, and a big snap oversteer from H Racing Green, unsighted through the exit of the Roggia chicane and into the Lesmos. He's going to have to do it all over again as the gap opens back out towards 3.5 tenths. Jamie's still in the lead of this race. Did he pit and rejoin in the lead? I think he did, because he didn't need to take on as much fuel. So Jamie should be now fueled. Yeah, brand new mediums on the car. He's got a window of a couple of laps of opportunity here. Jamie was in the pits temporarily, but came out and managed to undercut everybody. So terrific driving from Jamie on that in-lap. Look at that, a 2 minutes 20 in-lap. Compare that to the other drivers around, a 2:27 for Distinct. And that represents, I think, some of the fuel saving that he managed to do. Bransky's brought himself into this one by pitting once on lap 16, but has got his hands full getting these 6 more laps out of these tyres to the end of the race. Blue flag's being waved. I'm not sure for whom, because I think everyone's roughly similar racing speeds here. So your order on lap 26, it's Jamie in front of Distinct, then Bransky, H Racing Green, Petty, Hasnain, Philip, Toby, and in the back we've got Fred and YRS, who's had a bit of a nightmare run. He was right with his teammate earlier on, but this is the battle for the lead. It is just around a second. It's just gone under a second between Jamie and Distinct. There is a fastest sector for Distinct, a purple sector, so fastest of anybody. And he's turning the screw now. He's got 5 laps to make the difference. Jamie, his brand new tyres starting to, the initial bite off those brand new tyres is starting to run out. But the top 4 will all be visible to one another down the 2 main straights around here, which is great after 26 laps of racing. Obviously no safety cars or cautions to bring the cars together. Distinct really running a very, very good stint at the moment. But it was the undercut by Jamie that worked wonders. He's not been in the lead of this race until now, this stint at least, and it's a whole new ball game for him with 5 laps to go now of the race. Seven tenths is the gap at the front of the race here. Make that 5 by the time they get down to the braking zone. And I think we've got a couple of drivers very close to one another here. That is Toby and Philip once again. Philip's running the hard tyres at the end of this race, and Toby on the mediums. Dives to the inside, but he's just not there, not quite close enough. Looking for a wide exit of Rettifilio. A little bit outboxed by Philip, who saw that move coming and parked it on the apex for the better exit himself. So back up to the front then. Let's see, Distinct versus Jamie. Now 7 tenths of a second. The pressure on Jamie, knowing that championship leader is behind him and feeling as if his lead's been stolen. Bransky's been dropped by the lead 2. This is a duel for the win here between the top 2. Oh, it looks like H Racing Green drawing alongside Bransky, getting just ahead on the back straight, but Bransky will still have the inside line. No, in fact, H Racing Green fully ahead, so he takes the 3rd position. And further back, we've also got Petty and Hasnain battling out here, so it could be that the Slag brothers end up losing places on successive laps, certainly losing grip on the exit of the Parabolica, and those mediums are much the worse for wear. Some of the worst tyres on the track at the moment on Petty's car. Down to 5 tenths once again at the front of this race, the lead. But so far, Jamie holding on. Currently fastest lap stays with H Racing Green on the 47.0. Will there be enough tyres left on these cars to put in a bid for fastest lap at the end? New fastest sector from Distinct, who runs that first sector super aggressively, but just can't seem to stay with Jamie through the sectors 2 and 3 to the same degree. Now running the 147s for the last 3 laps is Distinct, which is quicker than Jamie. Heading towards Ascari then now with just 3 laps to go. Fastest sector for personal best sector for Distinct. So Distinct with the slightly more worn medium tyres here. They're very close in wear rates. I think he may have overfueled the car slightly, relative to Jamie. I think Jamie's got the better fuel strategy here. Under a quarter of a tank remaining, with just 2 laps on the track to go for this race. Oh, Distinct got super close then, but suddenly a mistake on the exit has given breathing room to Jamie. Let's have a quick look back and see. H Racing Green has got the gap on Bransky. Petty, I think, will still be doing battle here with Hasnen. And then we've got Philip just stretching away from Toby in 8th, Fred in 9th, and YRS down in 10th place. And somewhat the worse for wear through this race itself. But the closest battle is the battle for the lead. We see H Racing Green getting out of shape. Some 5.8 seconds now off this group. And may need to start worrying in his mirrors about the advance of Bransky if he continues to make exits like that from the corners. What kind of a factor is that fuel over-fueling paying for here for Distinct? Just check out, he's not quite at a quarter of a tank yet, with Jamie well under a quarter, almost down to about an 1/8 of a tank. So Jamie's got the slight advantage here, the slightly newer tyres, the slightly lower fuel. You've always got to be wary of just tripping over a track limit penalty on the final lap, and that would break your heart. 0.5 of a second, that is certainly within range with a good exit here. Jamie might start the weave. Do well too, because 0.5 becomes 4 as they cross the start-finish line. This is the penultimate lap now. 0.3 of a second. Distinct showing himself in the mirrors, but Jamie's not buying any of that. Distinct will only slow himself down if he stays offline and doesn't commit to the move. So again, the gap opening up to 0.3 now. Jamie got plenty of fuel here for the end of the race. The Supra is very, very quick. Almost identical laps 28 and 29. And he tries to draw alongside into the Rogier chicane. Jamie defending beautifully through the corner. No contact made between the drivers despite the lag on the possibly on Distinct's car there. Maybe Distinct feeling a little bit shyer of making contact after what happened with H Racing Green earlier in the race. Maybe not, I'm just speculating on his mindset. He may just think, well, that was all H Racing Green's fault. So the gap still under half a second here into the penultimate time into Ascari. Jamie's just got 1.25 laps to run here to hold on to a brilliant victory. Strategically played incredibly well. But with the gap down under 0.3 and they head into Parabolica, surely Jamie's going to be vulnerable here into the next major braking zone of the track. Distinct focusing fully on his exit. Jamie taking a narrower line. Sure, he's going to hug the inside here because with 0.4 of a second, they're now on the final lap of the race. Jamie trying to hang on here. Will he defend to the inside as they go down? Yes, defending to the inside into halfway into the pit lane exit, and he's got the inside line. Distinct trying to draw alongside, and they tiptoe around each other with the lag and gradually trying to hang on, but the place is taken by Distinct on the final lap, and we lost the game. We lost the game at the most crucial moment. I'm so sorry, folks, for that technical difficulty. Let's see if we can get it back. I'm afraid the room is not found. And yeah, that was Distinct had just taken it. I am seeing from the other drivers the exact same problem going on for that final lap. Yeah, my apologies, folks. Obviously not something confined to me. That was just an issue. We may have to red flag it. I'm just waiting on confirmation. We obviously ran a great deal Everyone's saying they're very grateful it wasn't just then, but Brownski suggesting that the end of lap 29 will be the result. So that would mean that if we've had a truncated finish to the race, Jamie was ahead at the end of lap 29 by my reckoning, and Distinct is not happy about it at all. As you can well imagine, that is very upsetting for Distinct, who was waiting for his ideal moment to pass. But Brownski, who was the host tonight, and the game restarted on him, unfortunately. So I'm just going to wait for confirmation here, folks, and thank you so much for your patience here. My apologies for the difficulties we had at the most crucial moment. We did see Distinct take the lead, but if the if the finish is counted back to the end of lap 29, by my reckoning, and you can confirm for me if you will on the stream that that the end of lap 29, Jamie was still ahead of this race. Distinct just elaborating in a way in which I'm not going to read out on stream that was the end to the race. So I think, folks, it doesn't look like we're going to restart for a single lap sprint or anything like that. I think the result will be declared. Just waiting on that confirmation. So unfortunately, we don't have a replay for you or the final results order, but clearly we'll be able to rewind the stream and see the results at the end of lap 29. In fact, why don't I just do that now? Let me just confirm for you. So, lap 31, of course, it wasn't until the start of lap 31 that Distinct made the move around Jamie. That, for me, would suggest that the finishing results are Jamie first, Distinct second. I believe H Racing Green got ahead and stayed ahead of Petty in time for third and fourth. Then Hasnin, Philip, Toby and Brownski, I believe, are your top 8. So we will obviously confirm for you at the start of next week's coverage, and if we get the chance in the comments here tonight of this video with a appropriate spoiler warning. But our apologies for the finish to that race, but we still had 29 or 30 very, very enjoyable laps, very high quality racing. And from everyone involved at the Premier Sim Gaming League's GT Tier 1 League, and from myself, Webbo Red 5, thank you very much for your support, for your likes and subscribes, your follows on socials, and we will catch you on the next race day.